for the hardest-hitting show in talk radio. The true progressive voice since 2012. This is Southpaws.
Welcome to Southpaws on the Pacifica Radio Network. We are the leaders of the revolution. My name is Darren Gibson, and I'm your co-host.
And I'm Katy Steele Baroni, filling in for Jack Prince.
Well, good morning. As we are recording on the morning of Friday, February 4th, 2020, we've got a lot to talk about today. I wish we could talk about the weather. It's nice outside.
It is. I'm feeling like fall is on the way.
Yeah, they're forecasting temperatures in the 60s next week, except for one day where one model says it's going to be in the mid-50s. The other model says it's going to be 90.
Oh.
so
it could go either way at this point.
It could, I guess.
I will keep my beach chairs and my bonfire supplies ready.
Exactly. Well, as I said, we've got a lot to talk about. We're going to really rip into Trump today, so you better hang on to your seats for this one, folks. Before we get started, a couple reminders. You can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/Southpaws Radio Show. You can listen to the show anytime you like at Spreaker.com. Do a search for Southpaws Radio there. You can find us at Apple Podcasts by searching for Southpaws. Once you found our logo, you found us. Now, we put links to our podcast on all of our social media. You can find us at Facebook.com/Southpaws Radio Show, on Twitter at Southpaws Radio, on Tumblr at southpawsradioshow.tumblr.com. You can also find us at youtube.com by doing a search for Southpaws Radio there. And you can listen to us on great Pacifica stations, including KCEI-FM in Taos, New Mexico, KZGM in Kabul, Missouri, and Global Community Radio Channel 1. We're on every Saturday night at 11 p.m., so make sure you check us out there if you have the opportunity to. Oh, boy. I want to make sure that everybody hears this story, and I'm surprised that it made the national news.
Yeah, that's not happening as much as it used to.
No, not with anything that Trump does that's disparaging to anybody or anything. Well, this time he's been disparaging military, specifically dead or maimed military personnel. I have this. This is Jeffrey Goldberg writing for The Atlantic. This was dated September 3. When Donald Trump canceled a visit to the Aisne Marne American Cemetery, and I know I'm butchering that name bad, near Paris in 2018, he blamed rain for the last-minute decision, saying that the helicopter couldn't fly and that the Secret Service wouldn't drive him there. Neither claim was true. Trump rejected the idea of the visit because he feared his hair would become disheveled in the rain, and because he did not believe it important to honor American war dead. That is according to 4 different people with first-hand knowledge of the discussion that day. So let me just stop there before I continue reading this article. So according to 4 different people who heard this and were there, Donald Trump believes that it's not important to honor deceased American military personnel. Is that a surprise, Katie?
Not a surprise, but definitely threatens the system pro quo, right? Where we depend on patriotism and nationalism to fuel people to go sign up for the military, to go fight for our freedoms, right? Mm-hmm. So if people all of a sudden realize that there is no respect for dying for this, it tears the whole thing, crumbles and falls apart. They can't let this happen, right? So this is huge.
This gets better. Let me continue. In a conversation with senior staff members on the morning of the scheduled visit, Trump said, quote, "Why should I go to that cemetery? It's filled with losers." End of quote.
Yeah. Yeah, that just breaks down the whole system there. See, because now who's going to want to go sign up and enlist in the military if they're just going to get killed and be called a loser?
Oh, it gets better. In a separate conversation on the same trip, Trump referred to the more than 1,800 Marines who lost their lives at Belleau Wood as suckers for getting killed. Suckers, a direct quote. Belleau Wood is a consequential battle in American history, and the ground on which it was fought is venerated by the Marine Corps. America and its allies stopped the German advance toward Paris there in the spring of 1918. So this is World War I we're talking about, over 100 years ago. But Trump, on that same trip, asked aides, quote, "Who were the good guys in this war?" End of quote.
Let's point out the fact, do you know half of the people that died in that war died of the Spanish flu?
Yeah.
This was 1918.
Exactly.
The irony in this is, oh my.
He also said that he didn't understand why the United States would intervene on the side of the Allies. Really?
Because he wanted to just keep throwing those people in the gas chambers. Mm-hmm. Because that's what he, looks up to.
It's ridiculous. Let me continue. Trump's understanding of concepts such as patriotism, service, and sacrifice has interested me, being this reporter, Jeffrey Goldberg, since he expressed contempt for the war record of the late Senator John McCain, who spent more than 5 years as a prisoner of the North Vietnamese. While running for the Republican nomination for president, Trump said this in 2015, quote, "He's not a war hero. I like people who weren't captured," end of quote. By the way, there's video of this, folks.
Oh, yeah.
This isn't fake news. There's video of this. There was no precedent in American politics for the expression of this sort of contempt, but the performatively patriotic Trump did no damage to his candidacy by attacking McCain in this manner. Nor did he set his campaign back by attacking the parents of Humayun Khan, an army captain who was killed in Iraq in 2004. Trump remained fixated on McCain, one of the few prominent Republicans to continue criticizing him after he won the nomination. When McCain died in August of 2018, Trump told his senior staff, quote, "We're not going to support that loser's funeral," end of quote. This, again, is according to 3 sources with direct knowledge of this event. Again, let me read the quote. "We're not going to support that loser's funeral." Trump also apparently became furious, according to the same witnesses, when he saw flags lowered to half-staff. And he said this, quote, "What the f*** are we doing that for? Guy was a f***ing loser." End of quote. This is about a sitting United States senator who was a prisoner of war during Vietnam. Unbelievable, folks. But we should believe it because this is Trump.
This is a president that doesn't value human life. He doesn't value anything good, anything decent.
Yeah. Trump was not invited to McCain's funeral. By the way, the sources and others quoted in the article spoke on the condition of anonymity. The White House did not return earlier calls for comment, but Alyssa Farah, a White House spokesperson, emailed this statement shortly after the story was posted. Quote, "This report is false. Donald Trump holds the military in the highest regard. He has demonstrated his commitment to them at every turn, delivering on his promise to give our troops a much-needed pay raise, increasing military spending, signing critical veterans reforms, and supporting military spouses. This has no basis in fact." End of quote. And by the way, Trump this morning on the Today Show, they played a video clip of it, made comments last night that apparently he's blaming this on 2 staffers that were let go from his administration, and he said something to the effect of, "I couldn't get them out fast enough."
Clearly.
Yeah. But he also called it fake news, essentially.
Yeah.
Said it was a fabrication.
I can't tell you how many times a day I hear that from people. They just, they think that somebody went and found some fake-looking guy that looks like Trump and got him on video saying some stuff. Mm-hmm. Nobody looks like Trump, guys. There's only one of those Cheetos.
Yeah, exactly.
Every Cheeto is different.
I don't know. His sister, the retired judge, kind of looks a lot like him.
But thank God every Cheeto's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm. Let me continue. Trump's understanding of heroism has not evolved since he became president. According to sources with knowledge of the president's views, he seems to genuinely not understand why Americans treat former prisoners of war with respect. Nor does he understand why pilots who are shot down in combat are honored by the military. On at least 2 occasions since becoming president, according to 3 different sources with direct knowledge of his views, Trump referred to former President George H.W. Bush as a loser, direct quote.
I mean, I've referred to him as worse than that. I gotta be fair.
For being shot down by the Japanese as a Navy pilot in World War II. Bush escaped capture, but 8 other men shot down during the same mission were caught, tortured, and executed by Japanese soldiers. So for simply getting shot down...
He was the loser, yeah.
When lashing out at critics, Trump often reaches for illogical and corrosive insults, and members of the Bush family have publicly opposed him. But his cynicism about service and heroism extends even to the World War I dead buried outside Paris, people who were killed more than a quarter century before he was born. Trump finds the notion of military service difficult to understand, and the idea of volunteering to serve especially incomprehensible.
Exactly. He doesn't think dead soldiers are all the losers and suckers. He thinks all soldiers are losers and suckers.
As we'll find out a little bit later in this article. The president did not serve... skip that. Trump did not serve in the military. I'm sorry, I don't refer to him as president. He's an asshole, my opinion. If you don't like it, you can turn this station off and never listen to me again. I don't care. I do not care. Trump did not serve in the military. He received a medical deferment from the draft during the Vietnam War because of the alleged presence of bone spurs in his feet. In the 1990s, Trump said his efforts to avoid contracting sexually transmitted diseases constituted his personal Vietnam. Personal Vietnam being a direct quote. I'm looking at your face over there, Katie.
I was trying to put the words together here, comprehend what he meant by that. I'm just going to move on.
Oh, God. Yeah, well, it's probably because he was screwing so many people that weren't his wife. My opinion.
Raping, probably. Because who would climb into bed with that by choice?
Well, supposedly Stormy Daniels, supposedly Karen McDougal.
Yeah, I guess if you're, they're getting paid at least.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, or the fame, I slept with so-and-so.
At least do it for the money, ladies.
Don't come looking toward me. I'm poor as a church mouse.
Same.
Yeah. Continuing here, on Memorial Day 2017, Trump visited Arlington National Cemetery, a short drive from the White House. He was accompanied on this visit by John Kelly, who was then the Secretary of Homeland Security and who would a short time later be named the White House Chief of Staff. The 2 men were set to visit Section 60, the 14-acre area of the cemetery that is the burial ground for those killed in America's most recent wars. Kelly's son Robert is buried in Section 60. A first lieutenant in the Marine Corps, Robert Kelly was killed in 2010 in Afghanistan. He was 29. Trump was meant on this visit to join John Kelly in paying respects at his son's grave and to comfort the families of other fallen service members. But according to sources with direct knowledge of this visit, Trump, while standing by Robert Kelly's grave, turned directly to his father, John Kelly, and said, quote, "I don't get it. What was in it for them?" End of quote. Kelly, who declined to comment for the story, initially believed people close to him said that Trump was making a ham-handed reference to the selflessness of America's all-volunteer force. But later he came to realize that Trump simply does not understand non-transactional life choices.
Bottom line.
What was in it for them? There's no such thing as serving country for Trump. He's there to serve himself. You heard his sister say it last week or 2 weeks ago.
And ultimately, I mean, I guess I have a really hard time with going the opposite route and saying, oh, yeah, there's so much in it for these soldiers. Because what is in it for them? You know, in this world that we're in right now, they're coming back to nothing.
Do you want me to tell you what they say what the recruiters say to these kids?
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Because this is what they believe. Oh, well, if you serve, you know, you're eligible for the GI Bill. We'll pay for your college education.
You'll get free college. You'll get health care. You'll get that, and that, right? Which, that part, I get. It's not like you're going to get education or health care any other way. And that's how they recruit people.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes down to even the honor, when you're under an administration like Donald Trump, that honor is not in it for you anymore. So it's really, ironically, like...
There is no honor, and it starts at the top.
Yeah, exactly. He's taking the honor out of it right now. And then looking at somebody who already lost somebody who served honorably and saying, what was in it for them? Well, you'll never understand.
Mm-hmm. One of Kelly's friends, a retired 4-star general, told Jeffrey Goldberg at The Atlantic this, quote, he can't fathom the idea of doing something for someone other than himself.
Right.
He just thinks that anyone who does anything where there's no direct personal gain to be had is a sucker.
Yep.
There's no money in serving the nation. End of quote. Kelly's friend went on to say this, quote, Trump can't imagine anyone else's pain. That's why he would say this to the father of a fallen Marine on Memorial Day in the cemetery where he's buried.
Yeah.
End of quote.
That's exactly it. That's it. Because there's no money in it, right? So he doesn't get that. And he's never understood honor.
Yeah.
So for them, it just goes completely over his head, you know? And he doesn't even comprehend honor, I think is what we just discovered here.
He only comprehends money because that's what he has been around his entire life.
Yeah, and that's why he doesn't value humanity. He doesn't value a good character. He doesn't value decency. He doesn't even understand those things. They're not transactional.
We're talking Donald as an 8-year-old was earning a 6-figure salary.
But no, 8-year-olds understand those things.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be honest. I have a 12-year-old son that is so emotionally mature compared to that man. He's not human all the way. He's not all the way human.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, that comes from being raised by your parents.
That's true. That's true. It comes from culture and family and all these things that America traded for money.
Exactly. The reporter says, I've asked numerous general officers over the past year for their analysis of Trump's seeming contempt for military service. They offer a number of explanations. Some of his cynicism is rooted in frustration, they say. Trump, unlike previous presidents, tends to believe that the military, like other departments of the federal government, is beholden only to him and not the Constitution. We saw that with Portland, with Washington, D.C., with Chicago, with everywhere Trump has sent
We
troops.
see that with every one of his staff members, too, that he continuously makes break the law because it's not about anything but him.
Mm-hmm. Many senior officers have expressed worry about Trump's understanding of the rules governing the use of the armed forces. This issue came to a head in early June during demonstrations in Washington, D.C. in response to police killings of black people. James Mattis, the retired Marine general and former Secretary of Defense, lambasted Trump at the time for ordering law enforcement officers to forcibly clear protesters from Lafayette Square and for using soldiers as props. Here's what Mattis wrote. This is Mad Dog Mattis. You don't get the nickname Mad Dog just because you're a nice guy. Sorry. Here's what Mattis wrote. Quote, when I joined the military some 50 years ago, I swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution. Never did I dream that troops taking that same oath would be ordered under any circumstance to violate the constitutional rights of their fellow citizens, much less to provide a bizarre photo op for the elected commander-in-chief with military leadership standing alongside. End of quote.
Yeah, he stripped the honor from the military, and he didn't notice because he doesn't know what honor is.
Mm-hmm. Another explanation is more quotidian and aligns with a broader understanding of Trump's material-focused worldview. Trump believes that nothing is worth doing without the promise of monetary payback, and that talented people who don't pursue riches are
losers.
According to eyewitnesses, after a White House briefing given by the then chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Joe Dunford, Trump turned to his aides and said, quote, that guy is smart. Why did he join the military? End of quote. I just saw your eyes roll at that
I mean,
one.
how does anybody act like this man does not completely despise soldiers? What is wrong with you that you would put your life on the line to go do what this man says while he's laughing at you and calling you a sucker? Like you
And a loser.
You're getting pimped, y'all. You are literally getting pimped by an orange-haired, overweight moron.
Exactly.
And you feel strong. I don't get, like, there's not enough guns to save you.
No. Yet another related explanation concerns what appears to be Trump's pathological fear of appearing to look like a sucker himself.
I wonder why he'd be so worried about such a thing. Sucker.
His capacious definition of sucker includes those who lose their lives in service to their country, as well as those who are taken prisoner or are wounded in battle. One officer with first-hand knowledge of Trump's views said this, quote, "He has a lot of fear. He doesn't see the heroism in fighting." End of quote. Well, I guess we're screwed if another country invades us.
Yeah, but that was always an issue. I think we already knew.
Several observers told Jeffrey Goldberg that Trump is deeply anxious about dying or being disfigured, and this worry manifests itself as disgust for those who have suffered.
Keep him away from the mirrors, you guys. Keep him away from the mirrors. Nobody let him see himself.
Oh, he thinks he's the most handsome man in the world.
Clearly, they've already covered them up then and put in some
something.
photographs. I don't know.
I don't know either. Trump recently claimed that he has received the bodies of slain service members many, many times. But in fact, he has traveled to Dover Air Force Base, the transfer point for the remains of fallen service members, only 4 times since becoming president. Yeah, 4 times is many, many, according to him. In another incident, Trump falsely claimed that he had called virtually all of the families of service members who had died during his term, then began rush shipping condolence letters when families said that Trump was not telling the truth.
That doesn't surprise me.
Now, here's the coup de grace on this. Here's the icing on this cake. Trump has been, for the duration of his presidency, fixated on staging military parades, but only of a certain sort.
The kind that prop him up.
In a 2018 White House planning meeting for such an event, Trump asked his staff not to include wounded veterans on grounds the spectators would feel uncomfortable in the presence of amputees. Quote, "Nobody wants to see that." End of quote.
Wow. Way to completely, throw aside every disabled person in America along with every wounded veteran.
Yeah. And before you conservatives out there say, oh, Jeffrey Goldberg, who cares what he says? Yeah, he's a recipient of the National Magazine Award for reporting. So there you go. He's also authored a book called Prisoners, A Story of Friendship and Terror. Yep, folks. And Donald Trump said this story is completely false, fabricated, disgruntled former members of his administration that are just letting him have it. Well, that's not true.
Everybody's out to get him again, just like they did in kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
Poor guy.
Well, there's been a follow-up to this. Morgan Gestalter posted this at The Hill. This is dated September 4th. A retired Army general on Thursday night went viral for his scathing response to a report that Donald Trump made disparaging remarks about dead U.S. service members, telling Trump he's no patriot. Well, instead of reading his words, we'll play it here because there's a link to the video posted on Twitter. This is retired Major General Paul Eaton. I have no idea how long this runs, but we're going to run it all the way through. Take a good listen, folks, because this is Trump.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Eaton. I'm a retired Major General, United States Army, and I just read Jeff Goldberg's article in The Atlantic. I got to tell you, it was a tough read where you have the President of the United States calls the American military losers and suckers, particularly those who gave their lives. When he met with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Dunford, his comment was, "That's a smart guy. Why is he in the military?" I'm pretty unhappy with you, Mr. Trump. So I'm going to keep this short for your famous short attention span. You have shown disrespect to the military on countless occasions. I am stunned that anybody in the United States military would consider you anything but a loser or a sucker. You're no patriot. Let me tell you about a patriot. My father was killed in Vietnam. He was shot down over a Ho Chi Minh Trail section just outside of Vietnam and Laos. He delivered ordnance to cut the trail and cut supplies. And then he delivered close air support to Special Forces troops on the ground. And his airplane blew up. He went down in 1969, 13 January 1969. This dog tag was recovered at the crash site. My father was a patriot, well educated. He was a wise man. The best men and women in the United States of America are found in the armed forces of the United States military. Our Army, our Navy, our Marine Corps, our Air Force, our Coast Guard. Brave men and women. They're not just brave, they're smart, and they're wise. So, Mr. Trump, come 3 November, we're all voting for a real patriot, Joe Biden. And everybody who hears this, please take notice. And please vote. Vote Democratic. Our country's honor depends on it.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
That's something to piss off a retired general.
Vote Democratic, he said. Like, not used to hearing that from the military.
No, not at all. Oh.
This world.
Yeah. It's already in hell in a handbag. It's not gone to hell in a handbag. We're already there.
Yeah. I'm so confused I'm conflicted by his statement, too, because he literally said the best people in the world are in the military. Mm-hmm. As if, kind of puts everybody who's anti-war out of the category of being one of the best people in the world. I was kind of like, no, don't say that. But.
Yeah. I get what you're saying there. But there you go, folks. Make sure you share this with your Republican friends, your Republican friends, your
terrorist friends,
your
racist friends,
your Republicard friends, whatever you want to call them. Oh, Darren, don't say that. I'll say whatever I goddamn want to on my radio show. Period. End of story. Don't like it? Don't listen. Turn the channel off. Seriously, you Republicans need to go f*** yourselves. There's another one. I told you I was going to be putting a lot of bleeps in the show today. Speaking of, oh, God, I received this mailer yesterday from the Michigan Republican Party. The front of it says, the radical left has taken over Joe Biden. Don't let them take over America. I wish the radical left
have taken
would take over
Joe Biden. Oh, Jesus. I mean, I can't. It's the local level, these mailers that they're sending out, the national, they're all so, like, we have to save these because nobody's going to believe it. Nobody's going to believe this happened.
On the back of it, it says, Joe Biden has embraced the policies of the radical left. And it's got a picture of Biden standing to his right are Ilhan Omar and Bernie Sanders, and to his left, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Oh, my gosh. Like, I'm just...
You want to talk fabrication? Right here's fabrication.
Yeah,
people.
That's about as far from reality as it gets. Trust me. I've been trying to push his decrepit ass left for years. He ain't going that way.
No, he ain't. Among the policies of the radical left, trillions in new taxes crushing middle-class families.
Okay, that part's true, but they're actually giving all of that money to their privately contracted companies.
Amnesty for 11 million illegal immigrants.
I wish.
Reducing police funding. We wish.
We really wish. They might give more to the sheriff and take it from the police. Is that their plan?
Yeah. And then they, underneath, post a headline from U.S. News and World Report from July 8th, supposedly. Biden-Sanders unveil progressive unity platform.
I must have missed that.
I missed that one, too, because...
It probably wasn't progressive enough.
They sure didn't support universal health care.
Right.
Michigan Democratic Party did, though. I'm shocked at that one.
Probably with the understanding that the National Party would not,
Yeah.
And the understanding that we'll burn everything down if they keep telling us no in Michigan.
The radical left has taken over Joe Biden. Wow. If you want to talk fabrication, if you want to talk lies, this is the lie. And I'll tell you what, I wasn't planning on playing this today, but this mailer has pissed me off one more time. The radical left has taken over Joe Biden. Don't let them take over America. Because you know who actually has America? The rich do.
The oligarchy.
The rich. Time to play Carlin. Here we go, folks. One more time.
There's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks, and it's the same reason that it will never, ever, ever be fixed. It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table and figure out how badly they're getting f***ed by a system that threw them overboard 30 years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your fucking retirement money. They want it back, so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later, because they own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club. And by the way, it's the same big club they use to beat you over the head with all day long, when they tell you what to believe. All day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy. The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged. And nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. Good, honest, hard-working people, white collar, blue collar, doesn't matter what color shirt you have on. Good, honest, hard-working people continue. These are people of modest means. Continue to elect these rich suckers who don't give a about them. They don't give a about you. They don't give a about you. They don't care about you at all. At all. At all. Yeah. You know? And nobody seems to notice, nobody seems to care. That's what the owners count on, the fact that Americans will probably remain willfully ignorant of the big red, white, and blue that's being jammed up their assholes every day. Because the owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream, because you have to be asleep to believe it.
They're sleeping.
Yep.
Sleeping real hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when they say that the radical left has taken over Joe Biden, don't let them take over America, you know it's bullshit. Absolute 100% USDA grade A.
Yep, you'll know when we've taken over Joe Biden, because your wages will go up, you'll have health care, you'll be able to buy groceries. If you want a second job, you're going to have time to get it. And if you don't, you're not going to have one. That's when you'll know we've taken over Joe Biden.
There you go. Thank you. And as far as this mailer goes, here's what I think of it. Katie, if you want to describe what I'm doing.
He just wiped his ass. He did.
Yep. That's what I think of that.
Oh,
Unbelievable.
Sorry, Joe.
Unbelievable. This kind of crap.
Yeah, and they can't even give us hope now. Like, we're literally, we have to vest all of our hope and our faith into Joe Biden, and that's really sad. But the fact that we got to convince people that we haven't already taken him over while we do that, that's hard to wrap our heads around.
Yeah. Well, I want to get to this story. I should have done this before we started talking about that mailer, but 2020, as I mentioned on our private group, has jumped the shark.
Oh, it's not this. Yeah, we're in a whole nother page now.
I have this story. This is Thomas Colson writing for Business Insider. This is dated September 2nd. You're not going to believe this. Donald Trump told Sarah Huckabee Sanders, former White House press secretary, to go to North Korea and take one for the team after Kim Jong Un appeared to wink at her during a summit in 2018. That is according to a new book that has come out.
Do you understand what could have happened here? What if she had taken his advice? Could you imagine waking up to Sarah Huckabee Sanders? The effect that could have had on Kim Jong Un and how that could have affected us.
Oh, God. That's funny.
This is possibly the most dangerous thing that's happened since he's taken office.
Oh, God. Can you definitely imagine?
It's like you'd chew off your own arm before you'd risk waking her up, right?
She'd roll over and there he was. This is the first thing she'd do. And then that would wake Kim up and he'd look at her and he'd do this. Yeah.
Yeah, all of a sudden, like, I mean, the guy's clearly not attractive, but you put him next to Sarah, and he does go up a few notches.
Oh, God. In her memoir, a copy of which was obtained by The Guardian, Sanders described an incident at the summit in Singapore with Trump, Kim, and a collection of their aides. She said in the book, set to be released next Tuesday, that during a session of talks, Kim reluctantly accepted a Tic Tac mint from Trump, who dramatically blew into the air to reassure Kim it was just a breath mint and not poison.
Oh, my gosh. Stop it.
Well, I figured Trump popped that Tic Tac so he and Kim could start kissing.
And clearly, what a sucker, because he didn't even kill him.
Oh, gosh.
You had the chance. What a loser.
Yeah. The pair then talked about sports, including women's soccer, at which point Sanders looked up, quote, to notice Kim staring at me, end of quote. Again, that's according to The Guardian, looking at her new book.
And Sarah, because she's incredibly attractive, and why wouldn't you be staring at her?
She also wrote in her book, quote, we made direct eye contact and Kim nodded and appeared to wink at me. I was stunned. I quickly looked down and continued taking notes. All I could think was, what just happened? Surely Kim Jong Un did not just mark me. End of quote.
She wishes.
Well, you're a mark if you believe
Nobody's
that, Sarah.
ever marked you, Sarah. Nobody wants to mark you. You're never going to get marked. Sorry.
Well, she is.
Go mark yourself, Sarah.
Well, she is a mark if she believes that anybody would look at her. She's
going to have to go mark herself, I think, at this point.
And by the way, a mark is a carny term, basically meaning rube, sucker, loser. It's Trump. Well, Trump's carny to begin with. What do you expect? He's more carny than pro wrestling, and pro wrestling grew out of the carnivals.
They literally are carnies. How have I not? Oh, that's great. I hadn't visualized them that way before, but that's so perfect.
Yeah. The former press secretary said that later in the presidential limousine, she told Trump and John Kelly, who was then his chief of staff, about the incident.
Was this before or after she gave him the happy ending?
Why did you go there? Oh, Katie, why did you go there?
I was just checking. I wanted to understand the atmosphere of the conversation.
Why did you go there? According to Sanders, Trump said, quote, Kim Jong Un hit on you. He did. He f***ing hit on you. End of quote.
Yeah, I'd be pretty, surprised about that, too, because she grows.
Oh, God. Sanders replied, quote, sir, please stop, end of quote. So she must have been embarrassed about this.
Maybe.
Maybe
it was after the happy ending and she didn't want anybody to know.
No more talk about
Maybe she
that.
is what ended our problem. She's the one that de-escalated the tensions there. Who knew?
Oh, God. According to Sanders, Trump told her, quote, "Well, Sarah, that settles it. You're going to North Korea and taking one for the team. Your husband and kids will miss you, but you'll be a hero to your country." End of quote. Sanders then said that Trump and Kelly both, quote, howled with laughter.
So
end
strategical sex makes heroes, but military service does not.
Pipping out your press secretary.
That's courageous and heroic.
To one of the biggest nut jobs on the planet.
Dictator, autocrat, yeah.
Then again, she's working for an autocratic dictator.
She's already being pimped out, but so
exactly.
Yeah, her pimp is pimping her out now to others. It's other pimps. They're just passing her around now at this point.
Oh, God.
Wow.
Oh, my God. No.
If she shows up at that podium in some go-go boots, I'm going to have a real problem with all of this staring.
Folks, this is not my other podcast, Life of a Strip Club DJ. I swear it isn't.
This is a Trump administration.
Yeah.
There are going to be things that cross lines.
Oh, God. Trump was initially hostile toward Kim, using a speech at the United Nations in 2017 to nickname him Rocket Man, and threatening military action against North Korea if its government did not stop its nuclear weapon development.
I still think that he was flattered by the Rocket Man name.
But the pair, it might be, I don't know. But the pair have since enjoyed a warm relationship, with both leaders praising each other extensively. Yeah, because they've got a lot in common.
Exactly. They're friends, just like China. I'm so sick of hearing how these are our enemies when clearly that's his bro. He's trying to get him laid.
Mm-hmm. The Singapore summit was the first of their 3 meetings during Trump's presidency. They met again in February 2019 and then at the demilitarized zone in June 2019, when Trump became the first sitting U.S. president to set foot in North Korea. Trump said at a rally in September 2018 that he and Kim, quote, fell in love, end of quote, and that the North Korean leader had written him, quote, beautiful letters, end of quote.
Oh,
again, the Tic Tacs get into this here. The veteran journalist Bob Woodward's second book on Trump, Rage, due to be released on September 15th, describes the content of the letters and says that Kim said his relationship with Trump was out of a, quote, fantasy film, end of quote.
Ah, that's so cute.
That's so
They're
sweet.
so cute. In their fantasy film, I'm just going to leave it alone. I'm going to leave it alone, Darren. I'm going to be good now.
Yep. Well, here's some more fantasy to talk about. This is Reed J. Epstein writing for the New York Times. Again,
Hold on, his name is Reed J. Epstein?
Yep.
Ooh, I'd take the J out if I were him these days.
I'd take the Epstein out. Oh, my God. Donald Trump's advance team wanted to show him commiserating with the owners of a burned-out camera shop during his visit on Tuesday to Kenosha, Wisconsin. Yeah, on Tuesday, September 1st, Trump, against the wishes of Wisconsin's governor and Kenosha's mayor, went to Kenosha to talk to the police and to his supporters, basically. So the only problem, according to the New York Times, is that the owners of this camera shop wanted nothing to do with Trump. So the White House did the next best thing. It found the store's former owner, who still owns the building that housed it before it was destroyed, and passed him off as a business owner aggrieved by the city's unrest following the police shooting of Jacob Blake. Tom Graham, co-owner of Rhodes Camera Shop in Kenosha, said, quote, I just feel that this is another photo op for him, and I just didn't want to be a part of it. Just to have words put in my mouth or whatever, I just didn't want that to happen. End of quote. Mr. Graham said in a Wednesday interview that he did not return a phone call from the White House advance team seeking to arrange for him to appear with Trump. But John Rhodes III, whose family started the business in 1911 and sold it to Graham and a business partner in 2012, did show the building on Roosevelt Road in Kenosha's Uptown section to Trump and appeared at a roundtable discussion at a local high school. While introducing Rhodes, Trump said, quote, John Rhodes III, owner of Rhodes Camera Shop. John, stand up, please. End of quote. Rhodes proceeded to thank Trump and local law enforcement for doing an awesome job. In an interview Wednesday, Rhodes said he did not hear Trump's introduction at the time, but watched a recording afterward. Rhodes said, quote, he introduced me as the business owner, and I didn't correct him People say you shouldn't correct him anyway. End of quote. Well,
he's not wrong about that. I wouldn't have corrected him if I were you either.
He's right. Graham, who is 63, has known Rode for decades. He began working at the camera shop in 1979 on the day that he graduated from Milwaukee Area Technical College before buying the business in 2012. He said he has been inundated with press requests and hate mail since the discrepancy was first reported Tuesday night by WTMJ television in Milwaukee. Quote, I'm a quiet person. I don't like to get involved in politics. I got my first hate email last night. It's very difficult for me. I've had difficulty sleeping ever since the store was burned. End of quote. Well, Graham, I'll just recite the famous quote from Pericles. Just because you don't take an interest in politics doesn't mean that politics won't take an interest in you.
Bingo. You got played by your president. He's all of our presidents right now, and we're all getting played.
Rode, who is 68, said he remained undecided about whether to vote for Trump this November, but the opportunity to interact with him was something he could not pass up. Quote, I was not in any way trying to make it look like I owned the business. I've only done what I thought was best for them. I feel like Tom has kind of stabbed me in the back a little bit. End of quote. The guy he sold it to.
Yeah. No, I don't think that's what happened at all. I think you misrepresented yourself. You let Trump misrepresent you. Mm-hmm. And now you're the one that has to be accountable for that because you have a shitty president, just like we all do.
Yep. Yep. We all have to share it, don't we? Unfortunately. Graham said he was no fan of Trump's style and rhetoric, which he said dismissed the concerns of Kenoshans to make a broader political point in defense of police officers. Quote, I've always felt safe in Kenosha. He needs to look at the other side of the story, too. We're a community here, and we need to heal, and we need to grow. I feel that he is too divisive and just needs to work with us. End of quote. So this is the new owner of the camera shop saying this.
Yeah.
Trump is divisive.
That's why he obviously wasn't going to do the photo op with him. But, I mean, what's Trump's opinion on police? Are they losers and suckers if they get killed on the line of duty?
You know what? That's a good question.
I mean, are they losers and suckers just for serving? Because, I mean, do they make enough money for that? Like, I'm really curious as to how he views that. Because he has always been very pro-police, you know, as far as if anybody's asked or in his own statements. He's never made any comments about, you know, fallen officers being losers. But I wonder where the line is for him, you know?
That's a good point. I'm curious myself. Yeah, speaking of, since we're talking about the police, I have this story. I'm going to read bits and pieces of it because it does get kind of lengthy.
And before you start,
go ahead.
Just have to say we chatted about this before we started the show today. And I was really, really, my head is so full of all of these shootings and all of these incidents and all of these cities and all of these riots. And I'm sure it's got to be the same for everybody else out there, too. Every day it's something new. And we don't know who we're even referring to anymore or which incident or which shooting. So I just had to say that really messed me up at how much is happening so fast right now. And the one he's about to tell you.
Yeah.
It's.
Yeah. This if you're not scared now, I don't think anything's going to jar you.
Yeah, it is very blatant and obvious. Nobody is hiding the fact that they want to kill left-wing people.
Oh, you mean like the cops did last night in Portland
with
the suspect in the alleged shooting, I'll just be politically correct, the alleged shooting of a right-wing crackpot last weekend.
Yep.
By the way, the now murdered man, before he was shot last night, gave an interview to Vice News.
Really?
Yes. Said he was defending himself.
I believe that the way this has all happened. I believe it. And we'll never get those answers he won't get his day in court because they gunned him down.
Exactly.
You know who will get the day in court? The kid that shot the 3 protesters.
Yep.
You know, he'll get his day. Kyle? Was that his name's Kyle, of course. Yep. He'll get his day. He'll get to tell his story. But who doesn't? Yeah, exactly. Anybody that stands on the left and gets gunned down.
Well, I've got this story. This is Ryan Devereaux writing for The Intercept. The videos that preceded Anthony Huber's killing on the streets of Kenosha, Wisconsin are jarring. Among the most chilling is one from the parking lot of an auto repair shop. Several shots ring out. In the distance, you see the gunman in jeans and a green T-shirt. A man rushes up behind him. The gunman turns, more shots ring out, and the man collapses to the ground. The gunman circles a parked car, then comes back to the man laid out on the pavement. He looks down at him and pulls out his cell phone. Quote, "I just killed somebody," end of quote. And that's what he said before jogging off.
Right.
The man on the ground twitches and stares up at the sky, gasping deeply as bystanders work desperately to put pressure on the wound. Some cry, others yell for someone to call the police. In a second video, the gunman can be seen jogging down the center of a two-way street as bystanders yell that he just shot someone. He falls to the ground. A handful of men run toward him. Huber is one of them. The 26-year-old swings his skateboard at the shooter and reaches for his rifle. The shooter pulls the trigger. Huber staggers back, then collapses in the street. A second man, appearing to hold a handgun, takes a bullet in the arm. The gunman rises to his feet and jogs, then walks toward a column of approaching emergency vehicles. Again, bystanders yell that he just shot people. The gunman, with his hands in the air, is seemingly ordered out of the way, and the police move on. In a third video, shot before the killings took place, the same young gunman is seen interacting with law enforcement in an armored vehicle, accepting a bottle of water as thanks for the efforts he and others in a group of armed vigilantes were putting in. An officer in the vehicle says over a loudspeaker, "We appreciate you guys. We really do." Hours after the videos were taken, 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse, the suspected shooter, was arrested on charges of first-degree intentional homicide. By that point, he was miles away in Antioch, Illinois, despite the fact that he had approached police and several bystanders identified him as the gunman whose shots law enforcement were ostensibly responding to. Rittenhouse is accused of killing Huber and 36-year-old Joseph Rosenbaum, a father who leaves behind a fiancée and a young daughter, and wounding Gage Grosskreutz, a volunteer street medic. The killings came on the third night of protest over the police shooting of Jacob Blake, an unarmed black man who was left paralyzed after being shot in the back in front of his children. And yeah,
the police saw this.
On.
You guys, I've heard so much conversation since this happened, and I can't even deal with it anymore. Bottom line is they knew he shot people. They knew it. They watched him do it. They let him walk away. They respected him because of his gun.
And that
is the bottom line.
I'm going to skip down a little bit. The events in Kenosha are the latest in a long line of cases in which self-styled vigilantes have gathered under the banner of the Thin Blue Line, a flag and movement devoted to the defense of law enforcement and Trump, and engaged in violence with counter-protesters while police stood back. Days before the killings in Wisconsin, a so-called Back the Blue rally in Gilbert, Arizona saw armed pro-police demonstrators beating counter-protesters while law enforcement looked on. In the run-up to the confrontation, which are now weekly events, supporters of the rally posted violent fantasies online and death threats against their critics. Days later, police in Portland stood by as gun-toting men waving Thin Blue Line flags brawled with leftist protesters in the city streets. The clash came just weeks after Portland authorities acknowledged that a former Navy SEAL who had boasted about infiltrating Antifa was under investigation in connection with the detonation of an explosive device near protesters. Pro-police protests in New York have also devolved into violence, and it just goes on and on from there. Yeah, this is what happens when these cops get in with these so-called patriots, they call themselves.
Yep.
Well, they're not.
Well, and honestly, I really think that a lot of these patriot groups are off-duty cops, made up of off-duty cops a lot of the times.
Mm-hmm.
It just keeps escalating. It keeps getting worse, and the cops are making it very clear that it's okay to gun down left-wingers. Mm-hmm. And that they are going to bring in right-wingers to see a trial should they gun anybody down. Yep. And that they're going to defend them with their unions and everything else they have.
And this has been this way for well over 40 years. Take a look at Alan Berg.
It has. The system's been this way. It's been possible to do what they're doing now. They've never done this. This is like nothing we've...
2 words, Alan Berg. He was a radio host in Denver, Colorado that got on the air and started ripping on white supremacists. He was murdered in his driveway.
Oh, I'm sure.
By white supremacists.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah.
But as far as having them bolstered up publicly by the police, that's
exactly.
never. Like, the police would always come out and act like they didn't want armed vigilantes. They are encouraging it now. It's terrifying.
Sickening.
It's terrifying. The more I look around and see it. I keep seeing these burned out cars. I've mentioned it before, too. I can tell these right-wing groups are practicing. They're training somewhere. They are burning up and shooting out cars. And you can see the fire damage on them. Because they're just spray painting them and they keep driving them.
Yep. Real quickly, there's a post on Twitter by Seth Abramson, who's an author and an attorney. He wrote this on looting, rioting, and violence. Per the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the FBI, those responsible for the looting, rioting, and violence are the Boogaloo Boys, who are Trumpists, the Proud Boys, who are Trumpists, the militias, who are Trumpists, anarchists, who are apolitical, and organized crime, apolitical. Not responsible, again, according to the FBI, Black Lives Matter, and Antifa. Not responsible.
Antifa is not an actual thing. I wish people would quit. Did you see the meme? Said, I'm at Antifa headquarters shredding all the documents. We're getting out of here, fam, or something like that. It was so funny.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, that's kind of funny. And one quick thing, we haven't played this music in a very long time, but this will be our final story for today. Oh, yeah. Those of you that are longtime listeners of this show know what this music means. It's time to talk about the Fred Rogers of Michigan politics, only he's much more sinister. Your former governor, not mine, because I didn't vote for the son of a bitch. The stuffed turd, not the tough nerd, the stuffed turd, Rick Snyder.
Poisoner in chief.
Yes. This is from David Eggert, writing for the Associated Press out of Lansing. Former Michigan Governor Rick Snyder backed Joe Biden for president on Thursday, becoming the latest high-profile Republican to support the Democratic nominee over Donald Trump. Snyder told the Associated Press this, quote, Donald Trump has actually been leading the charge on incivility. The divisiveness in our nation has not been worse in our lifetimes. End of quote. He described Biden as, quote, a good, decent man. You can tell he's a person of character that cares. We really need to heal our country. End of quote. By the way, Snyder announced his support of Biden in an op-ed published by USA Today. So, there you go.
The world is officially upside down.
Yep. As I've said earlier in the show, it's jumped the shark. 2020 has now officially jumped the shark. For those of you youngsters that don't know what we're talking about, go look it up on YouTube. Put down Fonzie Jumps the Shark from Happy Days.
You won't regret it.
No, you won't. Fonzie in powder blue shorts, white t-shirt, leather jacket, jumping over a caged shark.
Dang it, Darren. Now I have to go watch it.
And the music that goes along with it is just phenomenal. I'm sorry. Gary Marshall, the guy that created Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, Mork and Mindy.
Man, I missed
spectacular.
That stuff. It was so good. I loved Mork and Mindy, too.
Oh, my gosh. So, yeah, this has just been one hell of a hard week for me, especially. This is driving me out of my tree. Just the whole Trump thing. I'm sorry, I'm probably going to lose listeners over this. I don't care. I've come around. I'm voting for Joe Biden. I don't care how anybody else votes, but this is what I have to do because we're not going to have a democracy to save if Trump gets back in.
If you know me at all, you know how much I hate Joe Biden, and I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah. And I talked to Jack Prince this morning, and he's doing the same thing as well.
It's our only choice. Our only choice.
Yeah. We have no choice. Like Carlin said, we have no choice. We have owners, and they own us.
And these owners, at least, will work us to death a little bit slower than the other one.
We'll be back next week. I'm Darren Gibson.
I'm Katy Steele Brownie for Jack Prince.
And for Kristen Cook, please support independent media and the First Amendment.
The stations that carry Southpaws do not necessarily share the opinions expressed on the show. Southpaws is protected by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and is copyrighted by Big D Entertainment. All rights reserved.